Yep.
Alright guys, my name's Jordan Lockerbie and I work here at DASA in Central Australia, Alice Springs. I'm a youth outreach worker, case manager. I work specifically with Indigenous youth up to the age of 25, and Dion, who you can't see, is in the back, and he's the case manager of the methamphetamine outreach program. He just wanted to give me a bit of an interview and my take on his program and what my thoughts are on it.
So Jordan, probably best to start up with is, how did you get into the alcohol and other drug sector of support?
I kind of fell into it actually. I was kind of looking at doing nursing, being a registered nurse, and I'd come up to Alice Springs and I'd been offered a job working in the sobering up shelter, which I then went on to manage only 10-12 months later, which was pretty cool. And during that time my younger brother had fallen victim to the addiction of methamphetamine, and it kind of drove me to make changes, you know, for people, you know, in my brother's situation. I looked around the community and thought back to my hometown too, and I thought, you know, there's not really a lot being done about this addiction. It's there, but there's not a whole lot actually being done, well, that I could see.
So, like, as you know, in our team we have Danny, myself, you and the other workers. A lot of people have a vested interest in supporting people with AOD issues. Can you tell us a bit about yours and maybe some of your history?
With AOD issues?
With AOD, yeah.
Alright, well, like a lot of people going through their teen years, I experimented a bit with amphetamines, not methamphetamines, but a lot of MD and ecstasy and a lot of alcohol, and you know, that was kind of my escape and that was my thing. And you know, I think that's kind of where I can relate to a lot of the people I work with today. You know, we try things out of boredom, and maybe we didn't have a great upbringing, or it was used around us, so it was, you know, we kind of took it as normal to do these things. But
yeah,
you know, now I am where I am, and I've been at that end of the stick, and now I'm in a position where I can help others, and I enjoy it. That's what I get up every day to do.
Thanks, Jordan, for sharing. Can you tell us a bit about your experience working in with the, because we know you're the youth engagement person now, but your experience working with the meth outreach team? Yeah.
Alright, yeah, well, I worked alongside the meth outreach team, as Dion knows, and along with Danny Lloyd, and so I worked with them for about 8 to 10 months from memory, and it was definitely an experience. And the clientele was, you know, it was a bit different, but it was great to see what they were doing too. It was, I've never seen it done before, just the intense case management in an outreach setting, you know, and just the way they did their holistic work, which just, it was mind-blowing. It was fabulous to be a part of, actually, and I learnt a lot, and I seen the clients took a lot from it too, and I've seen people, you know, really deep in addiction, you know, walked out of the addiction, you know, with these case managers, which it was really, really cool to see. And, you know, I really take my hat off to these two for what they're doing.
Thanks, Jordan. Can you speak on our area in Central Australia here in Alice Springs? And I know you know a lot about not just here, but also moving up towards Darwin, and the issues that surround people with addiction issues, not just meth. You know, there are the other issues as well. Can you speak on how, for our viewers who are probably down south in the big cities, you know, how different it would be here, you know, with our Indigenous Australians as well, with the remoteness? Can you speak on that?
I think the biggest crippling factor in the whole of the NT is just a lack of resource. and you know, the stigma is definitely a big one too. And you know, I've seen a lot of, not taken away from other organisations or workers, but there's still the stigma and the fear of, you know, how do we deal with it? How do we help people through this addiction? You know, there's been such light shed on alcohol for so long, and this new drug's just kind of popped up, you know, and I think, you know, the way I like to view addiction is addiction's addiction, habits are habits. So I don't really have that fear, and you know, and I think going back to the remoteness, yeah, again, it's just a lack of resources, definitely a lack of funding, a lack of knowledge and education, and that's what we love to do. We love to travel around the NT and educate and try and tear down the stigma wall, and you know, really just try to normalise it. You know, it's methamphetamines, yeah, it's a highly addictive drug, probably the most highly addictive in my opinion.
Yep.
But once again, it's an addiction, you know, and we got to look at it. And again, with the remote stuff, you know, the isolation, the boredom is a big one too. You know, when you got something that can provide a bit of fun for a moment in your life, well, it's pretty hard to shake meth. You know, it does provide a lot of stimulation, hence why it's a stimulant drug. Especially, you know, the Indigenous community too. I did see it start off in the non-Indigenous community here in Central Australia, and you know, I've seen it grip the Indigenous community, and it's really taken hold of the youth, the Indigenous youth, and hence why I've got my program, because I've seen, you know, that's kind of where I want to aim at, is Indigenous youth, and you know, just reduce incarceration and recidivism, and you know.
No, thank you. Speaking of youth, and that's your space now that you specialise in now as a youth engagement officer, can you speak on, because there are rumours that there have been a lot of young, like very young people that are starting to experiment with other drugs, and in particularly methamphetamine. Have you heard, or can you share, you know, some stories of what you've heard or known?
So in terms of shockingly young, 13 years old, injecting meth, which it's a bit alarming. Alarm bells go off. It's very concerning. The other day I heard stories of an 8-year-old smoking cannabis. You know, and that was a big shock actually. I don't really know how an 8-year-old knows how to smoke cannabis.
In terms of funding, and how, like you mentioned it before, we're resource poor in Central Australia. Our CEO has been advocating for more funding for what we do with the funding bodies themselves. Do you have anything you want to share in regards to, you know, maybe the caseload sizes or the need that's there in community compared to?
Oh well, you know, I'll say hands down between Dion Fuamatu and Danny Lloyd in their meth outreach program, just two people with the caseloads. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I take my hat off to you, D. Absolutely ridiculous. But the outcomes and the progression, and just, you know, what you do with such little funding and little resource, and, you know, constantly asking for more staff because you want to have a bigger impact, but yet just doing what you do, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
You know, some days I wish I could just jump on and be the third member and help you guys out, but you know,
you kind of are anyway.
I do from time to time, because I love the gig. I think the program's fantastic. It's shown to work. It's shown to be effective. It could be a lot better if we had more funding and staff, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to see programs like this adopted and spread through not only the state but the whole of Australia. You know, I originally come from Victoria, so I visit there frequently. I got mum and my brother, and they're there, and my brother's still currently an active meth user, and That's in a rural part of Victoria, and unfortunately there's no rehab, there's no meth program. You got your AOD counsellors, but it's not enough, you know.
Yeah.
This program's shown to not be the answer, but it's shown to work well. You know, the autonomy, intense case management in an outreach setting, you know, and you got staff with lived experience, which you don't always need, but it's always great.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing, Jordan. Just lastly, if you will, you want to talk and touch on your experience working here at DASA, Drug and Alcohol Services Australia, and just your experience here with the rehab, and you know how we have a fair few services that can holistically surround someone, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, like you're saying, like we've got our CEO Carol Taylor. She's, you know, she's kind of, well, she's still trying to just have it as a one-stop shop, you know, constantly filling gaps in the service, you know, always striving to have better client care and better client outcomes, and you know, hence why I absolutely love working here. You know, I get the autonomy I need, it's structured, I get to deliver things, you know, in a way that I feel is great, and I'm sure I can speak for the other two in the methamphetamine outreach program. You know, you know, they've found something that works, and you know, they're allowed to do it. You know, it's all kept correct. They can do it. The clients love it. The outcomes are great. You know, our CEO, I absolutely adore the woman. You know, she shares our same goal, and that's just a safer community, free from the group of drugs, and you know, and we come to work every day and we try to deliver that. You know.
Thanks for that, Jordan. Just before we sign off, do you have a message out that you would like to say to anybody that's either working to support people with addiction or people who are struggling with addiction themselves?
Yeah, I do actually. I think for those that are working, I'm sure, you know, you're doing the job, helping people, you know, if it's in the AOD sector or just the addiction, whatever. I think, you know, keep it up. You know, you're doing great. I hope your heart's in it. You know, when your heart's in it, the clients know it. You know, they respond well to that, definitely. And for those addicted, you know, there's just have hope. You know, have hope. Seek out help. Definitely seek out help. You know, and there's nothing wrong with, even if you don't want to stop using, just go and get some education. Use a bit safer. You know, every day's not a dark day, and there is people out here like us. I'm sure in other places too, where we just want to see the best for you. So, you know, seek us out, and yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jordan. Cheers. Richard,